Good afternoon and welcome. This is the October 21st, 2024 work session of the Salisbury City Council. There will be a special legislative session directly following today's work session. Also, just a reminder that there will not be a meeting next week, Monday, October 25th. And I am happy to report that we do have a full council here today, and Councilwoman Gregory is back. So again, we're still wishing your family the best, and you all are in our thoughts. In the event of an
28th is next Monday.
will not be meeting next Monday, October 28th. In the event of an emergency, we ask everyone remain calm and exit through the doors to your right. Proceed to the right and down the stairs. If the hallway is blocked, exit to your left, down the hall, and down the stairs. Do not use the elevator, and let us know if you need any assistance. At this time, we ask that everyone please silence your cell phones. Public comments will be heard after each work session item. If you plan to speak, please fill out a form on the table near the door and give it to the city clerk. We'll start this work session with a third quarter statistical fire department review, and we'll invite Fire Chief Rob Frampton.
Thank you.
Yes.
Happy birthday, Mr. President.
Chief.
So I'm going to give you a brief year-to-date update on what your fire department's been doing. Calls increase. Basic, what you're seeing up there. Right now, we're trending at a 5.5% year-over-year increase. That's on top of a 2% increase from 2022 to 2023. So calls continue to go up, which results in less downtime for our providers. And we're either going to have to seriously take a hard look at increasing staffing eventually, or relying on outside agencies more. I don't really want to rely on outside agencies because I know what we can bring to the table, and I just would rather keep it in-house. But what you're looking at there is one call every 27 minutes. When about a year or two ago, we were right around one call every 30 minutes. So calls are definitely on the increase. And tracking the fire unit responses, we're sitting at 5,126. Like I told you in the past, we didn't track that prior to this year, so we don't really have a gauge or a measurement to tell that by. But nonetheless, calls continue to increase, and that's kind of what you're seeing here. Breaking it down a little bit more, you see that, across the board, whether it's in the municipal limits or outside the municipal limits, with the exception of EMS calls that are outside of our fire district, everything is on the increase. The only reason I really have for the calls that are outside of our district, EMS calls, is because our units are preoccupied on calls in our fire district. So they're not available to go outside, so then the county relies on other volunteer agencies that are out there, your Parsonsburg, Hebron, things like that. The last number there that you see, the 49.5% increase in fire calls that are outside of our district, the County Fire Chiefs Association has made some changes with responses. So on high-speed highways now, we get 2 capital pieces or 2 fire units. There's also an increase with cardiac arrest, the number of EMS units that are going to cardiac arrest. So anywhere where there's a speed of 55 or greater, you're going to get two units. So that extends our district out some towards, say, White Low Road. It extends us going up into Delmar, down into Fruitland some, and then out towards Parsonsburg on the highway. So that number's not surprising that it's up that much because those changes have just happened within the last 6 to 9 months. Here's some bar charts here for everyone to look at. Some people like those better. Specifically talking about EMS, SWIFT, and MDCN, last week or the last work session, we gave a pretty in-depth presentation into that, but there's just a look at some of the cardiac arrest survivability and the work that we're doing. We tend to be significantly higher than the national average on that. With our cardiac arrest resuscitations. We've had 70 opioid-related calls year-to-date in 2024. And just for the record, in 2023, we gave 199 doses of Narcan as a department. That's not counting PD administered or public administered. That's Salisbury Fire and EMS administered. So some of you may have seen some of the photos of our Narcan one pill can kill vehicle. It should be going into service within the next week or two. It's finishing getting some lettering, some computers, and emergency lights and things like that. So it's going to really target that and have a medication called buprenorphine and be a part of a full program that'll get people hopefully, stop the addiction and get them back into, work or back into a roof over their head or whatever the case may be. EMS unit response times are trending up just a little bit. We'd like to see that number below 8 minutes, and we're sitting at 8 minutes and 9 seconds. So just something we keep our eye on. And just wanted to share a quick MDCN story about an elderly couple at the mall about 2 or 3 weeks ago. They were from out of town. The elderly lady fell, I believe, either inside or outside of Boscov's and cut her hand. An EMS unit responded along with our MDCN team. The MDCN team was able to suture her up, bandage her up, gave her a tetanus shot, and she did not have to go to the hospital. So the EMS unit was able to go back in service, and these people who were not from the area, who were not comfortable with everything that was going on, did not have to become part of our healthcare system. So they were able to return, go home, and follow up with their primary. So just one of the many success stories that we have with regards to MDCN. As you know, we bill for EMS. We are trending roughly in line with our budget predictions. So right now we're looking at netting 2.5 million, which is right in line, and that doesn't include the ESP money, which, if you remember, that's the money, the shortage in Medicare billing that we then go after. So Assistant Chief Chris Truitt and Finance are just starting to work on that. I saw some emails today going back and forth with some numbers for fuel costs and personnel costs and things like that. So last year that netted us almost $900,000. This year it's going to be a little bit less, but it should be somewhere right in there. So collections are still kind of where we expect them to be, but they're never really enough to offset the cost. So the fire marshal's office, I always like to throw this out there just to kind of show the value of the fire department. Value saved from property value saved from fires, just under $42 million year to date, and we've lost $2.3 million from fire damage. So definitely a good investment depending on how you look at it. Your annual budget for the fire department's much less than $41 million. So our fire response times average under 4 minutes, but there are a few areas that have come to light recently on the northeast side of our fire district and around the SU area where our times are trending a little bit over that 4 minute mark. So we've been able to work with GIS and kind of map some of those outliers, and we're going to work on ways to maybe improve our response to those areas. But in the end, it comes down to manpower, funding, and station placement. So, but just know that we are working with that. Fire marshal's office stays busy. We are currently interviewing for a permits and inspections coordinator, and our fire marshal's office is up to their ears in work because we lost Hannah and to the clerk's office, and our fire marshal is finding out what clerical work is all about and scheduling and revenue collection. So, but nonetheless, year to date, they've done 121 building plan reviews, which also shows the growth within the city. Duran specifically, along with the deputy fire marshals, completed 586 building inspections, and they're out doing that every day. And we are trending in the right line with revenue. Fire marshal's office right now has brought in approximately $432,000, which should end up putting them over what we estimated for them, but that's just due to the growth in the city and surrounding areas. They've investigated 21 fires for causal factors, and knock on wood, 0 civilian fire deaths and only 2 civilian fire injuries. And the last thing is just a few highlights. Our new incident command vehicle has arrived. It has been lettered, it has lighting, and we're waiting for some computer and consoles to come in so we can get those installed. I've talked before about the CTE program with the joint venture with the Board of Ed. Initially, that was supposed to be held at Parkside High School, the classes, and we were just going to hold the practical things. But a few of their students were actually not in high school, so they couldn't have it on Parkside's campus. So the Salisbury Fire Department's hosting that entire class, whether it be at Station 2 or Station 16. The lecture parts, the practical parts, all of it. So we're definitely a key player in that event, and I just want to put that out there because that program, I'm glad to see it resurrected and back on the table We have begun work on a community risk assessment with GIS. Lieutenant Nick Bond and Kyla at GIS are working on a community risk assessment. And what that is, I'm excited about it because it's forward facing, it's engaging for the public, as well as it has a backside. So it's never really formally been done. We think we know what our problems are, but until we actually sit down and do it and use a lot of the data from GIS that's collected with regards to census and how many people, have cell phones in a certain area and what the majority of the language speaking is, who has access to transportation. We'll be able to look at that. And then there's also an engagement portion for the public where they can click on a certain fire district and see what the median home price is, how many fires are in that area, how many EMS calls. So it'll be good for anybody who wants to come to the area or who wants to relocate within the area for maybe where they should live, if they want to live in a safer area or not. It's also going to guide us in our planning and our response as we move forward. So I participated along with the police department at the SU President's Safety Task Force meeting. So that brings a whole lot of public safety people together, and we meet and talk about issues in and around the college community. In addition to that, with the college, we have a partnership where we are going to be partnering with a data science major, a person who's majoring in that next semester to do their capstone project based on the total economic impact of fires in the city of Salisbury. So I'm kind of excited about that relationship and as well. We have partnered with the Recovery Resource Center using some of the city's opioid funds to fund the training for 6 peer recovery specialists, which is already started for them. They're a partner with our SWIFT team and help complete that whole 360-degree care. And we are, as a department, working on new mission, vision statements, and core values. All of our mission, vision statements, and core values were 23 years old. They were done in 2001, so I think it's long overdue that we probably take a look at those. So we have a task force put together of several key individuals within the department that are putting all of those ideas and thoughts on paper, and we'll be ready to roll that out in a couple weeks. And like to get Kyla here from the GIS department to talk about some of our dashboards that we're using. We're squaring almost all those up, and she's doing some incredible work. She's just great to work with and truly an asset for the city to have. So, and then just as a quick reminder, we saw last week, October's Fire Prevention Month, but every day should be Fire Prevention Day. So just want to restate that. We get 1 month, but we'd like to say that it should be every day. So that's a brief rundown of what's going on with the fire department. And if you have any questions, I'll ask them or answer them. And
the only question I have, and then I'll pivot to my fellow council members. So again, one of your first couple statements was, again, with the increase 5%, and then of course seeing the increase outside of our fire district with the motor vehicle collisions, high speed, that are of high speed nature. So when does it become, sort of speculative, or when we're saying that we need to have the conversation, or when do we actually need to actually decide, how many personnel that we're going to bring on board? When are you seeing that with the trend that's happening?
Yeah, I think, I really think we're not quite there yet. But it's definitely something that we have our finger on that pulse. When our response times start to increase, we have adequate manpower to handle those incidents now. It's when those response times start to suffer, or we begin to rely more on outside agencies coming in. So even with that 49% increase in the outside EMS units coming in, I still think we're adequately staffed, but I would say probably within the next 1 to 2 years, we're going to really need to look at maybe like a 5th EMS unit, because that's really where we get hit a lot with, is not having EMS units available, or EMS units are responding that are not necessarily back in service. They're not necessarily fully stocked with equipment, but rather than wait on an outside agency to come in, their people are overachievers and they just want to jump on that call and go take it. But it's definitely something we track every day, every week. We're sharing statistics back and forth and following that. So I would just say we have our finger on the pulse of that, and we'll know when it's time.
Just one quick, may I follow up on that piece real quick? Also, just understanding the staffing patterns of the fire department. When you bring in a new capital piece of equipment, it's not one or two people, it's the whole shift. So typically, it's
sure.
4 shifts of 3 people, 2 to 3 people. So you're looking at, if you make an upgrade, essentially, it's 12 people. So that's usually when we've done our safer grants, where we've brought on 12 people. If we want to add another piece of capital, Rob, you can elaborate on that.
So fire engines bring 12 at a minimum because you've got to have some FTEs built in for people who are off. EMS unit, if you add one of those, that's 8 people per shift. We've kind of had some preliminary idea sharing about our current safer grant ends in March. And then is funded through to July 1. They reopen that this March, but what it is you're applying a year in advance. So that would come into effect February or March of 2026. So I think I have a desire and an interest to consider applying for that. I think when the time comes in February or March, we'll sit down with the numbers and have a little bit better idea of whether we should proceed or whether we should wait a year. So.
Hi, Councilwoman Jackson.
The opioid cases, were they overdose or just?
Yeah. So yep. So they're all differing varies. So some people may have been unconscious. Some people may have passed away. I don't have the exact number here of how many were actually
Okay. Now the question I want to ask you, from your data, has it increased from last year to now, or has it?
Yes. Yes, the numbers of opioid overdoses have increased.
They have increased?
They have increased, yes. I don't have that exact number here in front of me, but I can certainly get it for you. But, 70 calls, typically, each call is 2 doses of Narcan, so that's 140, and we've still got 3 months left to go to get to the 199 number that we had last year. So we will definitely increase that number this year, but the goal is that hopefully this vehicle with a targeted program, the buprenorphine program, which is a longer lasting rather than Narcan. Narcan's a quick fix. The buprenorphine is long term, and they have to have a desire to get into a recovery program. Will hopefully decrease that number in 2025.
Question about the GIS stuff.
Sure.
So for our family, choosing where to live, EMS response time was incredibly important. And I know you said that there are some areas that you guys are working on. Are you guys going to be putting that information on this available for the public to see what the response time, like say someone wanted to move to a neighborhood and they wanted to know what the response time was, would they be able to look it up on this?
Yeah, so one of our internal dashboards shares that exact information with you. We just need to figure out how to clean up the specific addresses for HIPAA reasons. Right now I can get on there and tell you to respond to this call, it took us this long, this is the average for this district or this area,
Right, that's
or this street area. We just need to figure out how to get with Kyla to get the address data off of there, the specific address data, so that we're not giving away people's medical
Right,
information.
I
So,
gotcha.
but yes, that's all built into it. If you live in this area, this is the response time you can expect on average. If you live outside of the fire district, this is in Nistdale, your fire response time is expected to be this.
Okay, awesome.
Yeah,
Great.
yeah.
That's fantastic.
I had a follow-up, question for the administration. Okay, so we have, in the outlying areas as far as Parsonsburg down there in the highways, and we have to go up to Delmar, expanding some of our fire service agreement area and response times. I'm wondering, when can we revisit again and get this going about the fire service agreement before the budget?
Actually, we've got meetings.
Yes, we've had a few meetings in the background going on.
Okay.
We are working on it, and I would say we would know more probably within the next, hopefully, 2 weeks. There is an upcoming meeting on November the 4th for some more information sharing, but that's a work in progress.
But we have made substantial progress, unprecedented from perspective of funding.
Yes,
So
that's correct.
So it sounds like it's positively
Yeah.
moving
Everything is very
forward.
positive at this point, yes.
Excellent, excellent, and thank you.
Good.
a couple things. On the nursing home demand, I know we've talked about that from time to time. What is that? Is there a different, we'll probably talk about this offline, but is there a better way to handle that, maybe?
So I definitely think we're always going to have, the nursing homes are always going to be the high demand, high users, and we have a lot of them within our fire district, more than any other department in the county. Definitely the outreach of our SWIFT team of being able to get in there has helped some, but I don't think personally that we're ever going to be able to, totally lower those calls. We're just trying to plateau them, which we've had some success with that. There's just there's a lot of things that go on behind the scenes with the nursing homes, not being able to provide certain services that the hospital per se can.
Yeah. And the second thing, I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
On the second thing was on the Narcan issue, you're talking about the longer term and working with some recovery agencies. Is that kind of the long-term vision of how to handle those?
Yeah, definitely. It's definitely a full circle with the Recovery Resource Center, with the COAT team, with police department, all of those entities working together to get people the care they need, the rehabilitation, back into employment, houses, a roof over their head, a solid income, and then the ability to continue to track them. We mentioned last time that nobody ever really graduates from our program because addiction is a lifelong battle. So 2, 3, or 4 years down the road, if they re-enter, we want to be able to pick that up right away. So, but yes, I think that whole 360 care is definitely the way that we need to keep moving forward with.
Thank you, Chief. And I will make sure you, I think the mayor asked that question about the nursing home, so make sure next time it's included in your slide. He's good. The nursing home is definitely a concern with our elderly people, but I think that program definitely helps out with that the SWIFT
It does.
team,
It's
so.
difficult for us to get in there because there's a lot of things within the corporate nursing home world that don't allow us to make a lot of change in there, and then there's protocols at the state level. So
Thank you so much, Chief.
yep, thank you.
All right, City Administrator Andy Kitcherer will pivot to you for a Here's Home presentation.
Rob, I would probably stay right here. That's okay.
That's fine.
Wonderful. All right, as requested, here's home update specifically on the housing expansion program. As we jump into this, just give a little bit of background for some of the newer council members. The Here's Home is actually 3 housing incentive programs. We typically only think about number 1 on this list, but I did want to let everybody remind them that there is 3 different incentive programs. First, there's the Housing Expansion Incentive Program, which is encouraging expansive residential housing by waiving of the fees. That's what we're going to talk about today, permit fees, development fees. There is a pilot program that was for affordable housing, renovations, and construction. That program specifically gives a $400 property tax credit to any qualifying affordable housing project that is doing substantial rehab, renovation, and or new construction. We actually got our first application for that program this week, which we're looking forward to that. Yep. And then finally, the Salisbury Neighborhood Housing Tax Credit. That came in a little bit later after the November legislation, but this tax credit is for properties that are under rehab for Salisbury Neighborhood Housing during that period in which they take ownership of the property and rehab it. There's a tax credit before it transitions to the property owner. We give them kind of an abatement during that rehab program. This mirrors the existing legislation that had happened with Habitat for Humanity. So those 2 nonprofit programs, helping them cover the carrying costs while they're doing property renovations, et cetera. So specifically, we want to talk about the Housing Expansive Incentive Program. When we started this program and made the announcement, we had 67 different projects apply, 8,100 units, 8,149. There's the breakdown of what those units were. Predominantly apartments, but we did include also some assisted living, duplex, triplex style housing. Construction value, it's important to note, that's $1.427 billion. Our current assessments are about double that. So this is about 1/3 of the new assessment. If all of this was built, we'd essentially increase our value of our residential property by 50%. Of that, if everybody had applied and everybody qualified for the full incentive, it would be about $46.9 million in fees that would have been waived. That is a pretty big number. But I do want to let you know, the property tax increase on that same assessment is $11.7 million per year in perpetuity. So a little bit to give up on the front end to get a lot on the back end was the idea. How we came up with those numbers, it's about 80% of the construction cost is how we came up with the property tax. It is an equation we use there. I also, just as a disclaimer, most of this is speculation based off of construction value and fees. Everything kind of works its way out as the project moves forward. So that's why we rounded some of these numbers. Moving forward, we have had an update within, that was the initial application. We did revise those numbers. Some of the projects dropped off, did not move forward. So we dropped down to about 7,400 units. You can see the breakdown, what that was. Still $1.3 billion, 42 million, and then still $10.9 million in revenue. Eligibility for the program, so who's in the pipeline right now? Who is actively either developed, finished their construction, received reimbursement, actively working on their projects, whether they're in the review stage, have been approved, have been submitted, are under construction. A lot of units, still 29 active projects, 4,200 units, $617 million worth of construction value. About $21 million worth of eligible fees. That could go down depending if people don't hit those milestones. But still, $5 million of new property tax revenue. So this program, we believe, did spur a lot of development. $5 million, nothing to sneeze about. And this will continue to go on. Just a couple other points. Of the initial application, about 43% came to fruition. About 46 are still kind of our vision of what we want to see happen. The other part is, I would say we kind of have a roadmap. We know what, when we set up this program, we knew what people wanted to develop. Now, yes, we don't have all of it in the pipeline right now, but those 7,400 units are where people had showed interest into actually developing in and around Salisbury, and that's not counting potential annexation from water and sewer extension, et cetera. This is new development, residential properties, not even looking at commercial development. At the same time, this is just counting who actually applied. We've had two other projects I can think of right now that have already showed interest that aren't even being qualified in here. One is Stone Grove Crossing, Phase 2 at Booth Street. They're looking at doing the redevelopment. They're not including these numbers. And then Ocean Isle, Phase 4 was another project that is moving forward. So there is still housing that was not part of this that is still moving forward in different capacities. So this isn't all-inclusive either. That's kind of the high level I wanted to go over, just giving everybody update where we are, and open up for questions and comments.
As far as the ones that are the total number in the pipeline that will come to fruition, do you have a number, an actual number for that? Is this, I don't see that on the, it says units, but it's initially then revised and now eligible, but what is actually what we're going to see that will be available for people to
Sure.
move
So
into?
the way we are looking at eligible for the program is a project that has submitted an application and has at least submitted and shown continued interest in the program, whether they have site plans approval, have been in discussions with our DID department, or actively considering things. Now, the cost of materials, interest rates, demand, that's still a math problem that the business has to decide, but from an interest standpoint, there's still 4,200 units that are still in the mix. About half of that is under construction right now. I have that number right here if you give me a second. We have projects that are complete of those units, of that 4,200. 260 units are complete. We have another 1,900 that are under construction, 2,000 that have projects that have been approved or projects that have been submitted. So that's kind of the breakdown. So more than 1,900 more units that are under construction that will be coming online in the next 12 months, with another 2,000 kind of in the wings, getting ready to hopefully move forward here soon in the next 12 to 24 months, depending on market. Does that help? That answer your question?
Yes,
Okay.
thank you. Wasn't there a deadline on the Here is Home incentive program? And if that has expired, I think based upon what was shared at another meeting, do we have to reinitiate this Here is Home project in order to put it out there for additional housing?
Yeah, so real quick, initially there was deadlines that were established. There was 3 deadlines. There was an initial deadline where you had to, well, other than the application, you had to submit and approve and pull at least one building permit. Then you had to start construction. So those were tranche 1, 25%, the second tranche of 25%. But the last 50% hasn't hit yet. That's coming up for multifamily developments. It's June 30, 2025, if you want to receive that last 50%. Single family was June 30, 2027. So not everybody in that pipeline. I think if you're under construction, you'll probably have a good shot at hitting some of those deadlines. The people who haven't started have plans approved. Depends on what style housing it is, but it's going to be a quick timeline, so they may not actually make this incentive project or this timeline. So that is a part of the conversation. Does that re-engage them to start moving forward? If you want to re-up, I'm not sure, but that's something for you all to kind of, consider, think about if you're looking at incentives or encouraging development.
The other piece I have a question about is when you talk, this is constantly brought up about people being able to attain these homes or they're affordable homes. Are there any guidelines? I did not see it when I went through the information I had as far as determining a percentage or actual homes that would be attainable instead of the other breakdown I have that are, just
Sure, yeah.
higher than that.
Great
I
question.
just want to,
Yeah.
Ms. Gator, before you, this is just the program as it was presented back in 21, 22. So again, the conversations that we're having now, they weren't, being had 3 years ago. So this is this is an update as of the program that did exist, the numbers from those that applied, and then what's in the pipeline. We're not talking about Here is Home 2.0 if there is one. We're just talking about Here is Home previous, or Here is Home at the inception.
And I think maybe looking at, we didn't really discuss specifically type of dwelling from affordability. The initial idea was with the number 2, the pilot program, that would spur some affordable housing renovations and constructions using that model as the incentive. And I think the first one was more about market rate, did not specify. So there's an opportunity to look at a lot of the different pieces if we want to incentivize affordable housing as a part of redevelopment.
Okay, all right. Thank you.
So know that, internally we had some discussion. I think the only thing, kind of to wrap this up is, Mayor, I would love to hear your thoughts as of, again, seeing this, kind of what this was presented to back in 21, where we are now. What are your thoughts, kind of briefly, on this, and then moving forward as we continue with this, just to give council some insight into what you were thinking when it comes to Here is Home, anything further?
Yeah, I think we need to take a look at it in terms of, trying to create projects that are maybe at the precipice, but, need to be moved forward to give us some additional volume. One of the things that I'm seeing, and we kind of got into it at the last meeting with regard to the housing discussion, was that it appears like some of the larger builders are kind of holding back, restricting supply, 10 units at a time, and rather than building at a normal pace where you would see a certain amount of consumption. So I don't know exactly, and of course, of the new construction stuff, the larger developers and the larger builders are the ones that are controlling it. I don't want to mention them by name, but they're out there.
Just to specify, the mayor's talking about, again, for sale homes. Again, the way
yeah.
they've always done this is, they have a certain lot, and then usually they'll phase out so that they're not putting 100 units on the on the online at one time. They'll phase out 10, and then they make sure that these 10 are sold, then they'll get the next 10. So it's something they've always done. The big builders, all the big ones, they've typically, that's how they sell their homes. So nothing new, nothing scary,
No.
but
I guess what I'm saying is that the demand is very high, and I think to some degree, the product type is a little narrow. Not everybody wants to buy that type of house, and they're somewhat expensive. So that's what we've seen out of Sassafras, that sort of thing. But that said, it's a little bit of a personal opinion with regard to the whole problem with the marketplace, but it appears, and I think they would admit this, that that's kind of a strategy to keep supplies restricted and keep demand high, irrespective of price. So, I would think that we would want to encourage more production to try and kick up supply. One of the things we talked about before was the inventory at the MLS level. But a lot of the national builders, again, they're holding on to that volume. They'll put a little bit of, but there's the true picture of availability out there is higher than maybe it appears from the MLS, just because of the way the national builders are doing it. So yeah, I think we do need some more units out there, both rental and purchase, and we got to figure out a way to get there. So.
all right. Moving forward to our Housing Community Development Director, Mir Boda, for an ordinance amending Title 8 of the Salisbury City Code. All right, Mr. Boda.
Good evening, council. It's good to see everybody.
Thank you. And we'll just dial it up just a little bit. We'll turn up the notch just a smidge, so we're getting through
Okay.
our work session and legislative session.
All right. So what I got here is this is a minor update in our code to allow for updating our communication methods in certain portions of the code. This is the first set. There's a couple more to come that we're still working on with legal. But this will ultimately allow us, whenever there's a corrective action letter, essentially, which is our warning letter to a property owner, if they are in our system. This will more work with landlords who are registered. Once we get everybody registered, we will begin, when a code enforcement officer goes out, they'll add them as the applicant on the case, and then that landlord will get notification that there's activity on their account through their email. So this essentially allows for that.
Moving to the 21st century.
Yes. Instead of them maybe getting something within 6 or 7 days, they will get it within a minute.
Great.
So-
I think this is a wonderful idea. Council, any questions on this?
No.
All right, we have consensus to move this forward?
Yes.
Yes.
And seeing no public comments, thank you, Mr. Boda.
Thank you.
Look at that. Phew. We'll pivot to Arts, Business, and Culture Director Alan Swagger for an ordinance approving amendment for the city's budget to appropriate donated funds from the Zoo Commission. Esther
How you doing?
Good, how are you?
Happy birthday as well. I would have brought cake, but I think you had plenty of pie on Friday.
You go. Okay, all right, okay.
But seriously, thank you, and thank you, Mr. Taylor.
Yeah, you did that. That was but thank you.
No, but Women Supporting Women raised $235 for that. That's 47.
Is that what it was?
And the mayor was 200 of, no, I'm kidding. Yes.
It's well done,
Yes.
everybody.
Congratulations.
Very good.
Before you use an ordinance to accept funding of $54,000 as a donation from the Salisbury Zoo Commission. This is to wrap up the longstanding, design for the Andy and Bear exhibit that we've been working diligently on. There was a change order just due to some increases in pricing over time. So this allows us to complete that project and get into some, real capital campaign talks.
Good. We're excited. Anything to do with that Indian bear. So, Council, any questions about this?
No.
None.
No, we're going to get money. Thank you. Do we have consensus to move this forward?
Yes.
Yes. Do we have consensus to move this forward? Yes. Okay, perfect. Thank you. All right, next we'll pivot to the DID team for an ordinance to amend Chapter 12.20. So we have our Director of Infrastructure and Development, Mr. Nick Wojtek. And this is the Chesapeake Bay Critical Area Overlay District.
Yes, this is just to adopt the new critical area maps. I guess this had been presented back in February, the maps from the state, from DNR that they developed, but at that time, it was lacking the further delineations of certain specific areas, the intensely developed area, limited developed area, resource conservation area. Don't know a ton about them, but I think they're just more specific designations that help with planning purposes and Generally, the critical area maps are about tidal wetlands and their protections as we're doing construction and approving developments. So this has been through Planning Commission, it's presented here previously, but now it's kind of the full package, so
Got it.
hoping we can get it through.
Thank you. Council, any questions? Okay, consensus to move this forward?
Yes.
All right, thank you, Mr. Wojcik. And at this time, the work session is now adjourned. The time is now 5:09, and we will convene in special legislative session. We'll start with 2 proclamations. They will be presented by our Councilwoman April Jackson. So, Ms. Jackson.
Hello, everyone. I see everybody's lovely in their pink, except for, where's that? Oh, you got pink. Okay, Angela, hold your arm up.
I got pink band.
Pink?
Thank you,
Yes,
thank you.
Yes, yes. And it's a wonderful thing. I mean, this is a sad thing to have breast cancer. I am one who is a 21-year survivor. And I am a survivor as of now from lung cancer.
Good,
So,
good.
the City of Salisbury proclamation, whereas breast cancer affects millions of people and families worldwide, and with 1 in 8 women in the United States receiving a breast cancer diagnosis in their lifetime, and whereas raising awareness about breast cancer is vital for early detection, treatment, support, and whereas the Women Supporting Women movement encourages women to uplift one another in their health journeys and advocate for regular screenings and self-examinations, and whereas countless individuals, survivors, advocates, work tirelessly to promote breast cancer awareness and research, providing hope and support to those affected. And whereas it is important to celebrate and support those who have faced or are currently facing breast cancer, as well as to cherish the memories of those we've lost. And whereas community involvement is essential for raising awareness and promoting conversations about breast health. And whereas together we can grow a community, share important information, and drive change, ensuring that everyone feels informed and support in their breast health journey. And now, therefore, I, Deshawn M. Dowdy, President of the City Council, do hereby proclaim the month of October as Breast Cancer Awareness Month in our city, and encourage all citizens to come together to raise awareness, offer support to those impacted, and work towards a future free from breast cancer. In witness thereof, I hereunto set my hand and seal of the City of Salisbury this 21st day of October 2024. And Miss Bratton, you can come forward. Come forward. No, you come forward. Yeah, Miss Bratton, I watched her journey. I watched Kim Nichols, who was our clerk, city clerk, watched her journey. This is a journey that we women and men, because men do get breast cancer as well. So what we want to do is be mindful of the things that we have before us, take care of ourselves. Only we can advocate for ourselves.
We do have the Executive Director from Women Supporting Women accepting this proclamation on behalf of the city as well. So thank you.
Yeah, take a picture of it.
I'm Jocelyn Feist, the Executive Director with Women Supporting Women. I would like to say thank you for recognizing Women Supporting Women for the month of October. We are a grassroots breast cancer nonprofit of 501c3. We provide awareness, education, and support to all those affected by breast cancer. We are not affiliated with any national or state organizations, and all of our services are free to anyone that's been diagnosed with breast cancer. And all of our funding stays here locally. 72 cents of every dollar goes back out into our community. And if you know someone that's been diagnosed, please let them know of WSW. Thank you again.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
our community relations manager, Rachel Manning, is on the board of directors at Women Supporting Women. So she was part of the idea to bring the fundraiser to Third Friday.
Oh, and I have another one. And this is another touchy situation because I am now a two-time survivor of domestic violence. Could you come forward, Micaiah? Micaiah had an event, was it Wednesday? Thursday night. An awesome event for domestic violence. She had speakers, she had parents of people who had endured domestic violence, as well as them speaking about the trauma that it leaves within our young people. And then we had a speaker, Danielle Mann, who spoke. And what she said made a lot of sense to me. Instead of trying to help people that have gone through it, we need to stop people from going through it. So that should be our mission starting today, is to keep people from going through it. We need to be advocates for not only our young women, but our men are also on the other side of that too, as far as being abused. It's just not women being abused, it's men as well. So I would like to read this proclamation to you, Micaiah. Whereas domestic violence is a widespread issue that impacts individuals and families within our communities, affecting diverse ages, gender, races, and economic backgrounds. And whereas it is estimated that millions of individuals experience domestic violence on a yearly basis, not only resulting in physical abuse, but also significant emotional and psychological harm. And whereas the impact of domestic violence extends beyond the individual themselves, but it also affects children, families, and entire communities, highlighting the urgent need for effective interventions and support systems. And whereas it is essential to promote awareness for providing education on the sides of domestic violence, offering resources for support, and encouraging open discussions with community. And whereas advocate for survivors such as Ocean's Garden are committed to empowering those affected by abuse by offering resources, promoting healing, and establishing a safe haven. And whereas we are all have a responsibility to make sure everyone can live without fear of violence and to build community whereas everyone feels safe and respected. Now, therefore, I, again, Deshawn M. Dowdy, President of the City Council, do hereby proclaim the month of October as Domestic Violence Awareness Month in our city, and urge all citizens to speak out against domestic violence, support those who are affected, educating themselves about the signs of domestic violence, and foster a culture of respect and equality in our relationships and communities. In witness thereof, I hereunto set my hand in the seal of the city of Salisbury this 21st day of October 2024 as Domestic Violence Day. And I'm sorry I cry, but it affects me still to this day. It's okay.
Thank you.
I'm sorry, I did not write anything, but I'll just kind of freestyle. I want to first mention the visual on Thursday. So to start, my name is Micaiah Purnell. I'm the founder and president of Ocean's Garden. Ocean's Garden was founded to provide culturally specific programming to survivors of violence. And what we witnessed on Thursday is that domestic violence does not discriminate, and it does not matter what your race is, what your gender is, what your socioeconomic status is. No demographic really protects you from being a victim of violence. And so I just want to remind folks today in October and every other day through the year, that we all have a collective responsibility to stand up against harmful behaviors, violence. Again, it's in all of our communities. So thank you all again for the recognition, and yeah, that's it.
Yeah, thank you, Micaiah. Definitely, we appreciate the work there, and again, we'll continue the conversation because, as you can see, it is something that affects someone for even years after that event occurs. So again, thank you all, and thank you to, I think she left for Women Supporting Women as well, and their efforts. All right, now we'll pivot to the presentation and adoption of the legislative agenda. On tonight's agenda, we have ordinances 2829 for the approving the FY 2025 general fund budget, ordinance number 2893, adding new fees to the FY 25 budget, ordinance 2894, second reading approving a budget amendment to the budget in the parking fund budget, ordinance number 2895, amending subchapter 10.04.040 entitled Enforcement Officers, ordinance number 2896 to approve a budget amendment to receive funds from the Blue Heron Agility Association, ordinance number 2897, first reading amending Title 8 of the Salisbury City Code, ordinance number 2898, first reading approving an amendment to the city's budget to appropriate donated funds, and ordinance 2899, first reading chapter 12.20 Chesapeake Bay Critical Area Overlay District, and also due to a cancellation of next week's legislative session, I would like to amend the legislative agenda to add a consent agenda for the purposes of voting on the appointment of 2 individuals. So at this time, I will entertain a motion to amend the legislative agenda as stated.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Okay. And hearing none opposed, the chair votes aye. I will entertain a motion to approve the legislative agenda as amended.
Second.
All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Hearing none opposed, the chair votes aye. And we'll pivot to the consent agenda. I will entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda for reading.
Second.
Ms. English?
Okay, bear with me 1 second. Something just doesn't look right with what I pulled up. So we have 2 items on the agenda, the consent agenda, resolution number 3368, and that is for the appointment of David Burt to the Sustainability Advisory Committee for term ending October 2027. And we have Stephen Wackett to be appointed to the Truth Committee for term ending October 2028.
Right.
Did you say the Ethics Committee or the?
I think it was ethics.
So I'm looking at the resolutions that I was sent, and I actually thought one of them was the ethics, but I'm not seeing that on here.
It is Stephen Wackett.
So Stephen Wackett is for ethics?
Yes.
Is that correct? Okay.
Yeah.
So we're changing resolution number 3369 to the Ethics Commission for Stephen Wackett, term ending October 2028.
So this time I'll, motion to approve. We need to, do we need to do any amending since we're changing, or is it going to be presented as correct?
Presented as, maybe.
As she read.
Okay. This time I'll entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda as Ms. English read.
So moved.
See that right?
Second.
Okay, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
And hearing none opposed, the chair votes aye. I want to recognize David Burt or Stephen Wackett if either of you are in attendance. Well, we appreciate you all's service to the Sustainability Advisory Committee and the Ethics Commission. Thank you all, and we can't wait to see the progress and contributions you all will individually make. We'll pivot to our city attorney for our ordinances. First, we have ordinance number 2892. I will entertain a motion to approve ordinance 2892 for second reading.
So moved?
Ordinance number 2892, this is an ordinance of the City of Salisbury approving a budget amendment of the FY 2025 general fund budget to appropriate funds to the Salisbury Fire Department's operating budget. This is before you for second reading. No changes or amendments.
All those in favor of ordinance number 2892, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Hearing none opposed, the chair votes aye. I will entertain a motion to approve ordinance number 2893 for second reading.
Second.
Ordinance number 2893, an ordinance of the City of Salisbury to add new fees for FY 2025 and thereafter, unless and until subsequently revised or changed. This is also before you for second reading. No changes or amendments.
All those in favor of ordinance number 2893, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Hearing none opposed, the chair votes aye. Entertain a motion to approve ordinance number 2894 for second reading.
Second.
Ordinance number 2894, this is an ordinance of the City of Salisbury approving a budget amendment of the FY 2025 general fund budget and parking fund budget, and authorizing the mayor to amend the authorized positions included in the FY 25 general fund budget and parking fund budget. Oh, sorry, this is before you for second reading. No changes or amendments.
Trying to save your voice. All those in favor of ordinance number 2894, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
And hearing none opposed, the chair votes aye. I will entertain a motion to approve ordinance number 2895 for second reading. In a second.
Second?
Ordinance number 2895, this is an ordinance of the City of Salisbury amending subchapter 10.04.040 entitled Enforcement Officers of the Salisbury City Code to clarify which city personnel are authorized to act as enforcement officers. This is before you for second reading. No changes or amendments.
All those in favor of ordinance number 2895, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
And hearing none opposed, the chair votes aye. I will entertain a motion to approve ordinance number 2896 for second reading.
Second.
Ordinance number 2896, an ordinance of the City of Salisbury to approve a budget amendment of the FY 25 general fund budget to appropriate funds received from the Blue Heron Agility Association of Delaware and the amount of $4,000. This is also before you for second reading. No changes or amendments.
All those in favor of ordinance number 2896, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Hearing none opposed, the chair votes aye. I will entertain a motion to approve ordinance number 2897 for first reading.
So moved?
Ordinance number 2897, an ordinance of the City of Salisbury amending Title 8 of the Salisbury City Code entitled Health and Safety to allow for electronic communications as an option for warning letters for municipal code violation notices. Whereas the ongoing application, administration, and enforcement of the City of Salisbury Municipal Code demonstrates a need for its periodic review, evaluation, and amendment to comply with present community standards and values and promote public safety, health, and welfare of the citizens of the city. Whereas Mayor and Council of the city are authorized by Maryland Code Local Government Article 5-202 to adopt such ordinances not contrary to the Constitution of Maryland, public general law, or public local law, as Mayor and Council deem necessary to assure the good government of the municipality, to preserve peace and order, to secure persons and property from damage and destruction, and to protect the health, comfort, and convenience of the citizens of the city. Whereas Mayor and Council may amend Title 8 of Health and Safety of the Salisbury City Code pursuant to the authority granted in SC 2-15 of the city charter. And whereas the Housing and Community Development Department is moving its code enforcement process, rental registration program, and all department forms and applications to an online platform called OpenGov, which will allow for electronic communication via email with registered accounts in the platform. And whereas allowing delivery of warning letters for municipal code violations via electronic means will better serve the city and property owners, as it will provide for prompt notification and will afford property owners ample opportunity to correct violations prior to the issuance of municipal infractions. And whereas Mayor and Council have determined that amendments to Title 8 of the Salisbury Code shall be adopted as set forth herein. Ordinance 2891 reads Section 1, amending the following language, which I will highlight for you. So section 808030 of the city code, which is entitled Warning Letter Violations, if I can direct your attention to line verse 64, but we were adding or changing, it actually doesn't look like there's any change.
It's just the dash.
It's just a dash, adding first class, putting
I do appreciate that.
okay, the dash there. So fixing a typo or a typographical error. The substantive change, however, is reflected on page or line 71 through 73, adding paragraph 4 via electronic means if the owner has a registered account through the city's enforcement code software application platform, or 5 via email if the owner has a registered email address with the city. Looking also to subsection 809030 for letter violation, again, just adding the hyphen in first class, it's on line 98, and adding sections 4 and 5 found in lines 105 through 107. 4 via electronic means if the owner has a registered account through the city's code enforcement software application platform, or 5 via email if the owner has a registered email address with the city. And you're going to see those same changes reflected in 810030 for a letter violation, adding once again 4 and 5. 4 via electronic means if the owner has a registered account through the city's code enforcement software application program, or 5 via email if the owner has a registered email address with the city. And those are the changes.
All those in favor of ordinance number 2897, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
And hearing none opposed, the chair votes aye. I will entertain a motion to approve ordinance number 2898 for first reading.
So moved.
And a second?
Second.
Okay.
Ordinance number 2898, an ordinance of the City of Salisbury approving an amendment of the city's budget to accept and appropriate donated funds from the Salisbury Zoo Commission, Inc. for the completion of the Andean Bear exhibit design phase. Whereas the City of Arts, Business, and Cultural Department is nearing completion of the design, permitting, and development of construction plans for the new Andean Bear exhibit at the Salisbury Zoo. And whereas the Salisbury Zoo Commission, Inc. would like to donate the $54,000 needed to complete this phase of the project. And whereas the appropriations necessary for this donation must be made upon the recommendation of the mayor and the approval of 4/5 of the council. Section 1 of Ordinance 2898 read, the city's general capital project be and hereby is amended as follows. 1, increase general donations revenue account 98002-546-423-29051 by $54,000. And 2, increase engineering expense account 98002-513-020-29051 by that same amount, which is $54,000.
All those in favor of ordinance number 2898, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
And hearing none opposed, the chair votes aye. I will entertain a motion to approve ordinance number 2899 for first reading.
So moved.
Second.
Ordinance number 2899, an ordinance of the City of Salisbury to amend Chapter 12.20 Chesapeake Bay Critical Area Overlay District of the Salisbury Municipal Code to reflect changes to the Natural Resources Article of the Maryland Annotated Code and to adopt a critical area district map. Whereas the ongoing application, administration, and enforcement of the city code demonstrates a need for its periodic review, evaluation, and amendment in order to keep the provisions of the code current, comply with present community standards and values, and to promote the public safety, health, and welfare of the citizens of the city. And whereas mayor and council of the city are authorized by Maryland Code Local Government Article 5202 to adopt such ordinances not contrary to the Constitution of Maryland, public general law, or public local law, as mayor and council deem necessary to assure the good government of the municipality, to preserve peace and order, to secure persons and property from damage and destruction, and to protect the health, comfort, and convenience of the citizens of the city. And whereas Maryland Chapter 119 of 2008, House Bill 1253, establishes in Section 3, Paragraph 7I, that each jurisdiction with an improved critical area program shall formally amend its program by adopting the statewide base map for that jurisdiction, including the shoreline and landward boundary of tidal wetlands, the digitally generated and geofenced 1,000-foot critical area boundary, and all applicable critical area designations as its official critical area map. Whereas the City of Salisbury is a jurisdiction with an approved critical area program, and whereas Maryland Chapter 119 of 2008, House Bill 1253 establishes in Section 3, Paragraph 4I, that a local jurisdiction shall formally adopt its amended critical area map based upon statewide base map within 24 months of receipt from the Maryland Department of Natural Resources. And whereas the Maryland Department of Natural Resources and the Critical Area Commission delivered to the city staff a version of the statewide base map, which is attached as Exhibit A, entitled Proposed Critical Area, Salisbury, Maryland, on February 9th, 2022. And whereas the city was granted a 180-day extension to adopt its amended critical area map. And whereas the city desires to amend certain provisions of Chapter 12.20 of the Salisbury City Code entitled Chesapeake Bay Critical Area Overlay District in order to update certain provisions consistent with the Natural Resources article of the Maryland Annotated Code. And whereas Section 12.20.410 of the City Code requires that proposed text amendments to that chapter be subject to a public hearing before the City of Salisbury Planning and Zoning Commission. And whereas a public hearing on the proposed text amendment and the adoption of the attached map was held by the Planning Commission on July 18th of 2024. And whereas at the conclusion of the July 18th, 2024 meeting, the Planning Commission recommended by a vote of 7-0 that the map attached as Exhibit A, entitled Proposed Critical Area, Salisbury, Maryland, and the text amendments to Chapter 12.20 of the Salisbury Code be approved by Mayor and Council. And whereas Mayor and Council have determined that the map, which is attached as Exhibit A, entitled Proposed Critical Area, Salisbury, Maryland, and the text amendments to Chapter 12.20 of the Salisbury Code shall be adopted as set forth herein. Section 1, the map attached as Exhibit A, entitled Proposed Critical Area, Salisbury, Maryland, be and hereby is approved, and upon final adoption by the Critical Area Commission, shall be the official Critical Area District zoning map for the city. Section 2. This is the language that is going to be changed to the city code. Section 2, governing Chapter 12.20.040. Changes reflected in line 61, updating the designation of the authorization for the state statute, changing it from Title 9 of Natural Resources to Title 16 of the Environmental Article. Section 3, which governs Chapter 12.20.050, changes are reflecting starting at lines 76, striking the language and adding to it the new language, all waters and lands of the Chesapeake Bay and its tributaries to the head of tide. B, striking the language, adding new language, all state and private wetlands designated under Title 16 of the Environmental Article of the Annotated Code of Maryland. And C, a new subsection that says all land and water areas within 1,000 feet beyond the landward boundaries of the resources identified under paragraphs A and B of the subsection. 2, adding language that you'll see starting in lines 87. So it will read, within the designated critical area overlay district, all land shall be assigned one of the following land management and development area classifications and be consistent unless approved otherwise by the Critical Area Commission as established in Section 8-1809 of the Natural Resources Article of the Annotated Code of Maryland, with those found in the official Maryland Department of Natural Resources statewide base map.
Thank you, Ms. Boucher. All those in favor of ordinance number 2899, please signify by saying aye.
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 And hearing none opposed, the chair votes aye. This time we'll pivot to our public comments portion of the agenda. Mr. Kitcher, do we have any
None
online? Ms. English? Each, I will call you all in order of receipt, and you will have 4 minutes to speak, starting with Paula Donalds.
I've always wanted to do this. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, Mr. President. Happy birthday to you. I would have bought you a pie, but I noticed that women's
you know, that's gonna be my lullaby to
women
go to
didn't have
sleep
any
to
more on
now.
sale.
That does not go
It
against
was
your 4 minutes.
absolutely
We'll start you over. We'll start you over.
I'm sorry, Sam, start me
Yes,
over.
thank you.
Good afternoon, and definitely a beautiful day.
Yes, yes.
Thank you for giving me the opportunity to speak tonight. I'm here alone. I'm actually here, not here alone. I'm joined by a few of our leaders by my community, Shoemaker Manor. Like you, City Council and Mayor, we work tirelessly to maintain the appearance and quality of our neighborhood. However, despite our best efforts, we continue to face significant challenges. Our unfinished community roads. The last time I spoke, I highlight the poor condition of Shoemaker Manor roads, better known as our third world community roads. Sadly, things have gotten worse. These roads were never properly finished. They remain incomplete, and it just keeps getting bad and bad. The blacktop doesn't meet the gutters, and now even the gutters are cracking and lifting. We struggle with the issue every single day. I want to thank Council President DeShawn Doughty, Councilwoman Sharon DeShield, and Mayor Taylor, and the Housing and Development Team, Mira Boda and Rachel Manning, for coming to our community and hosting a barbecue and a walkthrough in the neighborhood on May 30th of this past year. Your presence was greatly appreciated, but since then, nothing has been done to get our roads completed or included in the capital improvement plan. I understand that this discussions about capital improvements are underway with department heads, and soon enough, the budget season will be here. In the coming months, the budget and capital improvement plan will take shape, and we cannot afford to be pushed back to the back burner any longer. Shoemaker Manor roads were never completed, and it's time we are made a priority. We, the homeowners and the residents of Shoemaker Manor, work hard to keep our community in good condition. But the unfortunate truth is that the city of Salisbury isn't holding up its end. We are significant taxpayers and stakeholders, and yet our voices are being ignored. As I stand here today, I urge you to take our concerns seriously. Yes, there are other projects like sidewalks and lighting that need to be done throughout our communities, but it's time to address our community's longstanding issues, our unfinished roads. Piecing our roads back together isn't going to work either. Filling potholes and patching cracks won't cut it. Our community roads were never finished, and now it's time to get it done. You've created incentives for developers to build new infrastructure in communities, but what about the neighborhoods that are already here? Why not redirect some of these resources to fix existing infrastructure like our neighborhood roads? And if that's not feasible, then we ask that our tax dollars be reinvested in our own community to finally complete the work that was left unfinished. Our condo association president, Ms. Carol Lee Greenwood, can provide more details on the specific challenges we face. But tonight, I hope that we are not only heard, I hope we see real action. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Donaldson. Carol Lee Greenwood.
I need a booster seat. Hi, I'm Carol Greenwood, President of Shoemaker Manor Condominium Association. History has shown that Shoemaker Manor is a desirable neighborhood as our units sell fast, most a few days after they are listed. This is because prospective buyers like the fact that we have bylaws and local rules that require our owners to maintain not only our common elements, but their property as well, and that is a great selling point. Our neighborhood is well kept, and the landscaping in front of the units provides great curb appeal. Many think we are an over 55 neighborhood. However, we have ages 3 to 96 living in here. We have walkers, bike riders, and several people in motorized wheelchairs who now have to navigate our city streets, which are riddled with potholes, raised manhole covers, and broken curbing. We remind our owners that per city regulations, they are responsible for cleaning out any vegetation that is growing in the curbing in front of their homes. However, the city has never addressed the grass growing in their streets, which further destroys the already compromised asphalt. 2 years ago, I had to report a broken water pipe under Rosalie Way, and now we have a pending work order to fix a leaking pipe under a storm drain on the same street. This leak has compromised the base of an adjoining driveway, causing a hole the size of a softball, something that the city will be fixing as well. We are not here to ask for anything that we are not entitled to as city residents. We just want what was promised over 20 years ago, that the city would finish our roads once the final building phase was complete. Well, that occurred in 2002, and here we are 22 years later, and we still have the original construction roads, as documented not only by former Delegate Carl Anderton, but Mayor Randy Taylor as well. And we are still not on your radar as far as the plans show through at least 2027, and maybe even later. The best we have been promised now is that the city will piecemeal fixing our current issues, and that hasn't happened either. Elected officials want their constituents to have faith in local government, but it is difficult to do when you have been given false promises and basically ignored for over 22 years. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Carol Phillips.
A funny thing happened on the way to the city council. Just kidding. Happy birthday.
Thank you.
My name's Carol Phillips. I am a member of the board at the Shoemaker Manor. And I just wanted to say good afternoon. And thank you for giving us an opportunity to address the 22-year history of the promises made concerning Shoemaker Manor roads. And by the way, can anybody hear me? Because sometimes I talk, okay. In talking to a few of our older residents, and we're not that we're old, who have attempted to have our roads promises addressed before, the city just doesn't follow through on their promises. We in our community work very hard to make our homes appealing and to maintain the market value, which means tax base, and the aesthetics of a well-maintained, welcoming, thriving community. When a potential buyer drives through to experience our neighborhood and has to drive down the middle of the road to avoid the potholes and the manhole covers or the severe dips in the middle of the road, their impressions can quickly change. Mere patches and filling the cracks will not fix 22 years of neglect. We implore you to accept the responsibility and correct the broken promises of the past and partner with us in our efforts to keep our association the vision it started out to be, a beautiful, well-maintained, and thriving community in the city of Salisbury. Thank you very much for your time, and come visit us and see for yourselves what a nice neighborhood we have. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Phillips, and those from Shoemaker Manor. Robert Taylor.
Good evening, Robert Taylor. A few personal notes. My wife is a 30-year breast cancer survivor, too, also active in Women Supporting Women. Personally, I was briefly, the attorney for the original developer of Shoemaker Manor many years ago, and boy, did that guy ever get shafted by the city. But that's water over the dam at this point. More importantly, and presently, this is why we need to stop giving tax breaks to things like the Ross. And to some extent, here is home. because we have totally unmet infrastructure demands of all kinds, not just in Shoemaker Manor, all over town. We've had, 26% tax rate increase in the last 12 years, or 10 years, I guess, mostly under Jake Day. And I would point out to the folks from Shoemaker Manor, Jake Day didn't do anything for you, did he? Did a lot of other stuff, painted the garage, did some things like that, but he didn't do a daggone thing for you. But he got his ticket to Annapolis. He got the gold mine, we got the shaft. That's just a few comments. Now, you're probably going to hear fairly soon from Mike Dunn, the Greater Salisbury Committee mouthpiece, about this report that they've done about housing in Salisbury. And I'm telling you, it is junk. It is a comparison with Sussex County, why they grow so much faster than we do. Well, move the ocean 30 miles west, we'll grow fast too. It's that simple, folks. So I think you have to really start looking at things, and particularly what we're doing to try to subsidize development. The Here Is Home presentation. There's no affordable housing requirement for that. I mean, my golly, what are we doing this for? Every meeting, it's affordable housing, affordable housing. Okay, start requiring developers to put in a certain amount of affordable housing. It's that simple. Frederick does it, Annapolis does it, Anne Arundel County just passed legislation for it. What are we doing? We're sitting here complaining and doing nothing, and then just trying to throw money into the pockets of developers like Nicholas Simpson. Now he'll want it for the hotel. How much good is that going to do? There's a hotel being built, expanded actually, in Fruitland now. They're not getting any tax breaks from Fruitland or the county. They're doing it on their own. But you're going to hear this, we're just a tertiary market and nobody will lend here. Horse manure. I settled loans for the center at Salisbury and for University Orchard. They were both well in excess of $40 million. They weren't made by local banks. I mean, let's start being realistic about this, and when somebody starts giving you BS up here, let's call it that. And let's be honest about it, and let's stop this giveaway stuff. And now, secondly, the density for downtown, and I know Mr. Dowdy wants to ram that through. That was very obvious at the Planning and Zoning meeting last week. That's going to screw Salisbury for a fare thee well. Let's knock that out. Thank you.
Holly Worthington.
My name is Holly Worthington. In May of '21, I purchased 300 West Main Street for the sales price of $410,000, and I renovated at the tune of $200,000 to create a real estate office and to house agents from Worthington Realty Group and seven people that also reside there, which have resided there for many years. My office has no on-street parking. We have no on-loading zone. Lot 15 has been the parking lot that my building has utilized for many years. Back in, let's see, I think it was around May of '23, I got a letter from the Historic Society stating that they wanted us to come and approve vinyl siding on a projected project that was going to come downtown, which I had no idea about the projected project. I was actually sold the building by Gillis and Gilkerson's office. The agent told me lot 15 was the lot that my office would be utilizing. When I realized that this was at risk of being sold, I made an offer on the property. I made an offer on the property prior to the day that they went into closed session. When that meeting went into closed session, which they got violated for Open Meetings Act, the comprehensive plan was not sitting in front of City Council at that time. However, City Council was advised that Lot 15 was part of the original comprehensive plan, which it was not. I believe it was lots 1, 11, and 12. Long story short, at the end of the day, my offer was not reviewed, which I offered $25,000 more with an escalation clause and offered cash. I wanted to salvage this property because it was still being utilized by the Opportunity Shop, by my office, by my tenants, and by people downtown. And I knew taking this away would not only give my people not a place to walk closely from, but also it would devalue the investment that I have. I don't have a silver spoon. Nobody's handed me anything. I asked my dad to borrow $500 to borrow my first house. He said, "You're going to figure it out," and I did. So everything I have is due to hard work. Everything I have is, the days of my friends are all at happy hour, I'm out putting in the extra hours, so to see, these meetings and the whole story's not coming out, just sitting through the last zoning meeting, they weren't telling the full story. You guys are throwing out different projects, but you're not giving the full story, or there's not been enough research on it to make informed decisions. There's a lot behind the scenes, and I hope that you guys really consider it. I know April, I know Deshawn, I know my tenant Charmaine was at that violence women thing at Unity Square, complaining that her mother walks with a cane. How is she going to now walk? You guys, the parking authorities now telling my tenants they're going to have to park in lot 30 over by Brew River, which is already, I think, sold to Green Street Housing. So what happens then? They push them off after that goes into development. At this point, they have put up signs for no parking. They have said they're going to put chain link fence around our parking lots. Initially, when this all started to go down, I went to Gillis's office. I talked to Brad Gillis, as did Randy, because Randy was not the mayor at the time, and we were going to sit down and we were going to hash this out. And you know what he said for me to do? I should borrow Randy's parking in between the Parker Place building and the other adjacent building. Borrow parking, which, that leaves me with nothing. So I hope that you guys actually hear all the facts and really research this, because this is a huge deal. When you guys are going into making these decisions, I might just be one person, but there's other people in my office it's affecting, people that live there, putting fences around a whole downtown when we have so many things going on. I don't know how that's going to play out, but
Thank you, Ms. Worthington.
I don't think it's really considerate.
All right. That concludes the public comment portion of our meeting. We will now pivot to administration and mayor updates.
Just again, happy birthday. I know you want to get out of here, so I'll be brief.
Thank you.
Another wonderful weekend, beautiful weather, a lot of fun happened at Halloween Happenings and Third Friday. Thank you to gentlemen for being part of the fundraiser. I know a lot of people had a lot of fun with that. So again, to all our support staff who helped make downtown events a great time, for the public safety, and then our ABCD team and our field ops for keeping the streets clean and free of debris and safe. Last comment, because we're not having a council meeting before then, we do have the Wild Vibes event the first weekend in November. It is a fundraiser for the Salisbury Zoo. So if you're looking at having some more fun in November, please come out to that event. All the tickets and information are on the salisburyzoo.org website. That's it.
Thank you. Mayor.
Just to comment a little bit about Holly's comments, was that there was exchange on Friday where special counsel wrote a letter to the Gillises to put them on a cease and desist kind of an approach to the whole thing. So we're hoping that we get a dialogue going, that we don't get into a more awkward situation than we're already in. I don't want to get into the particulars of all of that, but it appears that we've got a little bit of a rub, so to say the least. So. As for me, this Saturday I'll be at the American Legion Post 64 for an event which is I always like to support the veterans, and they have bratwurst and beer tastings, and so it's a good event, and I always like to support the veterans. So if you can make it out, we'd appreciate it.
Thank you. And just of note, I did, again, council didn't know about that letter being sent, so there's been a lot of correspondence. We have asked that a council be briefed on before any other correspondence and decisions be made, especially when it does affect the city. So a council representative will need to be made aware of those conversations.
Yeah, just on that point, I think the administration was responding to the contract, which I think is an administrative issue and not a legislative one. So we felt within our purview and to do that, and that's the second letter we've sent out. The first one we did make you aware of, but we sent it out on Friday before you responded, so we can certainly make it available to you.
Sure. At the very least, just CC us on the email. So.
Sure.
At this time, we'll pivot to council. So we'll start with Councilwoman DeShiel.
Okay. The zoo event on Saturday. They had two, one on the 12th and one on the 19th, and it was packed. And all the volunteers and the hard work that went into that, Alan, credit to your people. It was lots of fun and beautifully done. Just as a promo for another zoo event, those of you that may be listening who have children that have sensory issues or just need a little smaller area within which to play or interact at the zoo, they are having something, it's called Sensory Friendly Halloween, October the 30th from 5 to 7 at the zoo. And feel free to join it. It will be done very well based upon what they've done for the last 2 weekends. I attended the town gown. SU is in my district of 3, and I have been invited to be on the town gown committee, and it's amazing what's going on over at SU. A lot of, just an FYI, if you see the fencing in front of Holloway Hall, it's geothermal work that they're doing there, and then it will be covered up again with grass in the end. Blackwell, the old Blackwell Library is being totally gutted and renovated, and a lot of the things they're sharing. The athletic department at SU is something that we all need to support and attend and enjoy, because the director of athletics is working. They now have a collaboration with Under Armour, which is evidently a huge coup. I'm here again, Hands and Hearts Ending Homelessness. The cold weather shelter will be opening on November the 15th at the Seventh-day Adventist Community Hall behind the church, beyond Shorebird Stadium. We have 4 ways in which you can help. You can donate food. Rob Frampton, last year the fire department did 5 nights of dinners. You can work registration. It's 4:45 to 8, and it's better to take a buddy. Basic needs, you can go on Amazon if you aren't able to participate in person and order things that we need. And finally, we will always accept, financial donations. We offer the shelter for 32 men to get through the 5 months of the winter when it's, cold. Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Councilwoman. Councilwoman Gregory.
Well, I just want to say I want to thank everybody who reached out, who messaged, who brought food. Even though I said I was okay, I greatly appreciate all the support the family has gotten. As Nick has been in the hospital, he is still there. So please be patient with me. You will not see me in public as much as I normally am. So just until he's out, I'm going to be I came straight here from there, and then I'm going right back over. So we're still dealing with some health issues. He's still in ICU, but he is slowly but surely, he is a stubborn child. I don't know where he learned that. He's a very tough kid, and he's been through a lot in the past month, but he's slowly but surely getting better. So I appreciate all the well wishes. Just be patient with me for a little bit, and I'll be out and about soon enough.
Thank you, Councilwoman. Councilwoman Jackson.
Well, on the topic of domestic violence, I know you saw me get emotional, and it's an emotional trauma that I've had to go through. Domestic violence is a horrible form of abuse of any kind. So I just want you to know that I just wasn't crying to be crying. I actually had PTSD. I had formed that at that particular time. I had a flashback of some of the abuse that I went through. So I just want people to know that it's hard. It's hard, and we must be patient with people who have gone through domestic violence. We have to, and I'm gonna tell you, men are abused just as well as women are abused. But men are more silent with theirs because it's a pride thing. But it's torture, pure torture. And I was young, very young, didn't know any better. I do now. And anybody that needs help, and I'll tell you today, if you're in an abusive relationship, you never tell somebody that you're going to leave, you just go. Pack your bags. You don't even have to pack your bags. Just go. You never inform somebody that you're going to do something, because then you're in harm's way. So you just go ahead and go. Whatever you're leaving, you'll recover it again. You'll gain it again. And you'll gain it at a multitude that you won't even understand. It strengthened me in a lot of ways. Strengthened me. And, you know, people think when you cry, you're weak. No, you're not weak because you cry. You're not. It's a lot that went on with me. And it came from marriages that I went through. I was abused. And it wasn't funny. And it's not funny that somebody has to go through it. And as Danielle Mann said Thursday, instead of us helping somebody through it, let's stop them from going through it at all. So we are the people who can help others and keep them from going through whatever they're going through. And I see it quite often in my community. And I do speak to the young ladies, and I do speak to the young men, and I tell my daughters, and I tell my son, if you don't want to be hit, you don't hit. So don't put your hands on somebody else and don't think that there's not going to be recourse. You know, if you got to be in a relationship like that, you don't need to be in it. Not that they're in a relationship like that, but I don't want my kids to have to go through what I went through, or I don't want them to take somebody through what I went through. So that being said, now I have some events that are going on in my community, and one of them is it'll be Tuesday, October the 29th, is a trunk and treat, and it's free to the whole community. Free.
Pemberton. Pemberton.
Huh?
Pemberton.
No.
Okay.
VFW.
Okay.
You know where. No. It's at the VFW, and it's from 6 to 8. Place will be greatly decorated, beautiful, everything spiffy. And we're asking you to bring your kids. We're asking you to even come. Just come and just enjoy the evening. We have music, foods, treats, contests, everything. So just come, stop by. You don't have to stay the whole time. Just stop by and see what we do in our community. And then we also, on that same week, we have an adults called Spectacular Thursday. And it's just totally for the adults. And that's from 9 to 12. No, from 7 to 12. And it's a charge for that, but it's not a charge for the kids and the families. And I know last year we had oodles of people, family members, and it was just so diverse, and it just was so lovely. Everybody in there had a good time. The kids, when they saw me, they were like, we had so much fun. And that's what it's about, bringing our families and our children together and in a community and fellowshipping and having a good time. And that's what we did. And we want to continue doing that. My next event is December the 14th. And I will keep reiterating this day because it's a senior citizen Christmas dinner and gift giveaway. And we give away gifts to the seniors, and we have over 300, maybe this year probably 400, because they've called me already for the list so they can sign up. So, it takes a lot to do these things, and of course I've been very sick, so I haven't been able to do many fundraisers this year at all. So I'm just looking for help with donations and things of that sort. But it's December the 14th, it's from 12 to 5, and it's at the Richard Hazel Youth Center. And it does my heart good just to see the seniors have a great time because, on Christmas, it's a lonely time for them, Thanksgiving and Christmas. And it does my heart good just to see them be joyful and have fun and dance and sing and eat and take home food. And it doesn't bother me at all. Take it, because I don't want to take it home. So you take it with you. But they enjoy themselves. Angela's a witness. Angela has been there. Michelle has been there with me and helped set up and decorate and had fun. And it's an awesome time. And any senior, 60 plus, and even if you're not 60 plus, if you come, just come and just help. Give us a helping hand. I'm not going to say you can't eat because I'll feed the nation if I could. I would feed the world if I could. So just come and just check us out and see what happens there and just see what we do for our community. I'm not, asking for much. I just want your time and for you to see what goes on.
What time is trunk or treat?
Trunk or treat is from 6 to 8. Trunk or treat is from 6 to 8.
Thank you, Councilwoman. Council Vice President?
I was trying to write all the dates down, right? Yeah, the food is definitely worth it. I mean, for sure, the food, you do a great job with all the food. Okay, a lot going on. I do want to remind administration that Shoemaker Manor, I brought it to your attention, and I do know the city had gone out there, and their roads had not been qualified according to the formula that is used for repairs. But I did bring it back to the city on several occasions. I don't know if we could revisit that and kind of just see where they are on some of their issues with that, but also reminding us that Spring Chase had similar concerns. So I know we've been having some discussions on redirecting some finances for some infrastructure. I know these two neighborhoods have definitely reached out to me. I've gone out, did the walk, took pictures of it, came back. So I just want to keep that on our radar screen as we move forward with these discussions. Basically, I mean, there's so much said and so much shared by the time it gets to me, but I just want to remind everyone to keep Salisbury clean. There's an awful lot of litter and some of our side roads and things of that nature. We have a great group going around volunteering, picking up, join the group, but just don't even litter in the first place. It's really, it's terrible. It's terrible. Just keep us clean. Let's appreciate the animals around us, our wildlife, our, our seafood, just let's keep our food and area clean. Again, just consider donating blood and plasma. You can imagine right now we're in a national crisis with all the terrible weather we've had and hurricanes, especially in Florida, and consider being an organ donor. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilman Vice President. Yes, so much has been said on one topic relating to planning and zoning. We did have our meeting. If I didn't mention it before, we are getting a Starbucks in front of at the old Kmart shopping center, so next to where the KFC is. So I know folks in District 2 will be happy that there's something other than Dunkin' Donuts there. So you have that to look forward to. That's moving forward. Martin's Mill. I don't drink either, so.
Trying to say I'm classless in my coffee.
Martin's Mill, I believe that's a development out in Dagsboro Road that went through final comprehensive plan review, so that's coming along. And then again, everything else has been mentioned. And again, thank you all, everyone, for your birthday wishes. I appreciate it. And I will even the singing. So we appreciate that. Yeah, my 20s are older, but still young. The youngest ever council president. So I'm gonna hold on to that until someone else. We can't. No one under 30. So now. But no, I'm forever grateful, and I'm definitely blessed, and all those things. I don't feel it. So, but ask me in the morning when I'm actually 30, waking up 30. So
you don't feel it?
No, not yet.
You don't feel 30?
You don't.
Well, actually, I just turned at
again,
6:05. I just turned 30. That was the time I was born.
Oh.
But yes, as you will see, again, I did work today. I took half the day off, but I spent the other half of the day in a community meeting and trying to see how we can revitalize our parks, working with met with some people there, figuring out how we can get programming and those kind of things back into our parks. And then I spent over an hour meeting with a business person downtown, not to talk about development or anything like that, but just meeting with them. They asked for a meeting, and I said, there's no time like now, so met with them. So spent the other half of that doing that, and then I'm here with you all now. So again, I'm not saying that for anything else. I'm just saying that, again, we do take you all very seriously, and then the conversations are happening. I do want to mention my very best friend came here, Commissioner Spuddy Cephas, who was just reelected this past Saturday for another 4 years. So you appreciate that, but again, a lot has been said. You all mentioned the projects and the downtown development, and so one thing, again, words were already spoken for me, but not one way or the other. But since being appointed last October, that's been a reoccurring theme of talking about the same thing for the last year. And what I've vowed is that I'm not going to spend the rest of my 3 years talking about that one thing. I don't see that as being a notch on any of our Belt is doing something positive for the community. I'd rather spend my time, my breath, doing something that's going to definitely affect we have greater needs. We have homeless, housing, food insecurities, all of those things going on. And so, again, I've been pleading for a meeting, for conversations to be had. And so, again, some of the things you all have said, I've been asking and screaming for that from last year. So I'm a man that I like things to, I'm all about efficiency, and this has not been an efficient conversation, and it's gone well beyond what I've been elected to. So I'll leave it at that.
It's my phone.
At this time, I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
All right, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
And this meeting is now adjourned.